Please welcome Dr. Bauman of IMMY.
First, I'd like to begin by saying thank you to the organizers for inviting us to all be here, and thanks to you all for sticking around for the second half of the showcase. I'm going to talk to you about a disease that none of you have even heard of, but this particular disease actually kills about 600,000 people every year. That means about 2,000 people are going to die today, and roughly 30 of those people are going to die while I'm standing on this stage with you today. So where are these people? These are primarily patients in sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. These are mainly HIV patients. And as you know, or as you may not know, many HIV patients actually don't die of HIV itself, but they die from opportunistic infections that are caused by other things. So this disease that I'm going to tell you about is called Cryptococcus Neoformans. It's easier to say it's fungal meningitis, okay? The way this happens, the way you get infected, is there's organisms in the environment, and you inhale the organisms. You have probably inhaled these organisms. It's everywhere. And if you're immunologically normal, then no problem. You fight it off, no big deal. But if you have a compromised immune system, as is the case in many HIV patients or advanced AIDS patients, it can go on to develop meningitis, bad scenario. Currently, despite the best available methods, 80% of these patients are going to die. 80%. It's a tremendous number of patients die. In fact, more patients die of fungal meningitis, HIV patients, more HIV patients die of fungal meningitis than die of tuberculosis. You've probably heard of tuberculosis. So this is an orphan disease. We've got this huge problem of educating the world about this disease and coming up with interventions that can solve this problem. Breadwinners are being lost, so families are losing their incomes. Children are losing their mothers. Tremendous burden of orphans due to HIV. Patients are dying despite the best efforts of the doctors. This happens to be a friend of mine. This is Dr. David Maya in Mulago Hospital in Kampala, Uganda. I was actually with him 3 weeks ago in Kampala when this picture was taken. So tremendous individual. He pours his heart out every day to try to make a difference in these patients. But like I said, 80% of them die. Why? Because they're diagnosed too late. They're diagnosed when the organism's already in your brain, when it's hard to treat at that stage. Well, what if we came up with a better strategy where we could diagnose them earlier in the course of disease? That would be great, right? Typical scenario in a hospital in a resource-limited country. You don't see a bunch of nurses walking around in uniforms in this type of environment. What you see is sick patients and their families that are taking care of them. In our scenario in the US, you go to the hospital and you're taken care of by nurses. They feed you, they help you get to the restroom if you need to go. Well, in this environment, you're cared for by your family. If you don't have family, that's bad news for you. When we go develop products here in the United States, we think of this scenario. Lots of electricity, lots of high-tech equipment, lots of really smart people, lots of people that actually paid attention to the STEM curriculum. They went on and they can operate in this environment, okay? This is a typical laboratory environment. This actually happens to be in Tanzania. I'm gonna tell you a story about this particular location. That plug right there may or may not work. Who knows? The generator that's out back that's supposed to keep the electricity flowing, maybe they paid for the diesel, maybe they didn't. So that means all your refrigeration and all of that is gone. All your lighting is gone. Well, they don't have air conditioning. They really don't have much of anything. So I go to Tanzania about 3 years ago to do a training workshop to help figure out why are these patients dying? What can we do to help this and to see the situation with my own eyes? The lab technicians pulled out of the refrigerator. This is one of our kits. Just totally mauled. We didn't appreciate the challenges of just transport and the high humidity and the in and out of these just crazy environments. And that's what the FedEx truck looks like. Okay, you just don't appreciate these things until you see it with your own eyeballs. Okay, this is out in front of the World Health Organization office in in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. This is the same vehicle that's going to carry my stuff to my customers in Tanzania, okay? You've got to understand the problem. And this picture, I think, says it all. And this was a very transformative time for me. I see this kit come out of the fridge. It's totally mangled and destroyed. And I realized, geez, this thing, to really make it work right, you need a refrigerator, you need trained technicians, you needed equipment, you needed all these different pieces. And I needed 1 milliliter of water to rehydrate a reagent. And an hour later, I actually got the water. I mean, it was a total disaster because of what? Because I didn't know my customer. I didn't know the situation that they are in and the challenges that they are faced. This is from rural Kenya. I was driving around. I was sick of being in Nairobi. I wanted to get outside of the city. I just wanted to see real world people and life. And this was at just beside the road, this sign. I was like, that's it. It's keep it simple. So the theme of this conference is tomorrow's technology today. I'm going to tell you how we can use yesterday's technology today for this type of an environment by just keep it simple. Well, what if we could take just one little drop of blood and make a big difference and change a life? I'm going to tell you a story that we are doing that. We developed a test, it's a simple test, pregnancy test type technology. 2 lines is positive, 1 line is a negative test. This is a test for fungal meningitis. Usually when you see a pregnancy test, you see that it's housed in a plastic housing and it's all, has all this fancy stuff. Some of them even do a plus sign, and now they even have digital pregnancy tests. Well, those were no-go for us. Remember, this is going to Africa. I can't develop a pregnancy test that costs $40 and expect to sell any of them into Africa. So strip off the plastic housing. Well, that price just went down by 4x just because I took the housing off of it, okay? Very simple test. Very, very good test. Lots of technology is actually built into this test, okay? Using monoclonal antibodies and gold particles, and actually right here, you'd apply the sample flows across the strip, picks up the gold particles. Right at the very beginning, we actually have a filter in there that's going to remove red blood cells. Why? Well, I can take that finger prick that has red blood cells in it, remove the red blood cells, and let the liquid portion of your blood flow on through. And that's the portion that we want to test. Lots of technology that's built into this test, but it's all invisible to the user, right? We want to make it simple. That's what we did. Developed it 3 years ago. 3 years ago. It was FDA cleared in 2011. CDC recommended. I love telling this story. I think it's so cool because it gets to something I think is absolutely central to what we do at IMMY. We work with collaborators. Dr. McKeever talked about public-private partnerships. We didn't get here because we did it on our own. We did it because of public-private partnerships. I'm in the Salt Lake City airport. My cell phone rings. It's an international number. I'm like, that's kind of unusual. I take the call, and it's Dr. Easterbrook with the World Health Organization. She said, I heard about your test. It's like, great. Can I tell you more? And she said, absolutely. Would you be willing to come to Geneva and present to the group of people who are writing the guidelines for the care and treatment of these patients? Like, oh, man, that sounds awesome. Here's the catch, Sean. It's in 2 days. So no big deal. I'm there. I mean, who gets the opportunity to go present to the World Health Organization about your product? The cool thing was there's 30 people in the room. I'm the only guy from a company. It's all academics sitting around the table. But you know what the really cool thing is? I already knew half of them. Half of them had already used my test on their patients. So I'm preaching to the choir here, right? It's not because me, Sean Bauman, and IMMY in Norman, Oklahoma, that we did it all on our own. It's because we're humble enough to admit we can't do everything on our own, and we need other people. And so what's the path forward? How can we save these lives? Well, the path forward to save lives is screening programs. And that's actually what came out of that meeting at WHO that they recommended. National screening programs, so the doctor doesn't need to have fungal meningitis on his differential diagnosis. He just needs to receive results from the laboratory. With that type of an intervention, we can save 90% of those lives. That means we can keep the family unit together. We can keep mom with dad and baby with parents. That's important stuff here. Like I mentioned, the collaborators. Here's a few of them that we have on the screen. We've worked with the World Health Organization, CDC, importantly, University of Nevada, Reno. They developed these monoclonal antibodies that we licensed. The beautiful thing about working with University of Nevada, Reno, we were on the same page, and it took about 4 emails, and we basically had the whole license agreement all laid out. It's a win-win scenario. The Clinton Foundation, I was with those folks in Uganda and Kenya just recently. I could go on and on. Funding through OCAST. One exciting thing, CDC says by 2015 they want to equip half of the labs in Africa and Asia with this test. So they think they save 50 to 100,000 lives every year. I'm gonna take it a step further. We're gonna go try to save 100,000 lives every year. That's mom and dad, right? But if we can keep mom alive, just mom alive who would have died otherwise of fungal meningitis, we can save 100,000 orphans every year. Every year. I mean, that's amazing. We're in Norman, Oklahoma. We have a global impact. I mean, you can hop on a plane and be in South Africa tomorrow, or you can get on the internet and Skype with somebody in Chennai today. That's what we do at IMMY. We change lives one diagnostic at a time. Thank you very much.